Night is coming. One by one the stars appear. Night is coming. And soon it will be time for stories. Long ago, storytellers invented magical stories about the sun, moon, stars, and the other great mysteries of the sky. The stories were not meant to explain these mysteries. Rather, they were told to help people pay attention to our world. Today, scientists use another way to help us pay attention to the mysteries of the sky. By observing, measuring, and predicting, they explain how the world works. And like the storytellers of old, today's scientists can lead us to better know and care for our world. Storytellers and scientists are today's sky tellers, for they both tell us about the sky. And though each tells a different kind of story, both help us to better know our world and ourselves. Night is here. Listen now. This is the time for stories. Long, long ago, there were no stars. In the day there was the sun, and at night there was the moon, but there was not one star in all the sky. Now in the day sun gave light, and at night the moon gave light, but some nights moon gave only part of her light, and on some nights moon gave no light at all. And on those nights it was so dark the animal people could not see to go here and there. They fell into holes, they got lost, and they were frightened. And so it happened that one night the animal people went to Creator. "Can you help us?" they asked. "The night is so dark and we are afraid. Please help us." Creator said, "I will help you, and this is what you must do. Go down to the river and gather all the small stones you can. Don't pick up the stones that are round and smooth like the sun and the moon. Bring back only the small stones that have sharp, pointed edges." The animal people hurried to the river, gathered all the small, sharply pointed stones, and returned to Creator. Creator took one of the stones and placed it high in the sky. The moment the stone was placed in the sky, it began to sparkle and dance. The stone had turned into a star. There it was, one star in all the night sky. Creator then took more stones and began to place them in just such a way that they made a picture in the sky, a picture made of stars, and oh, this pleased the animal people. Creator said, "Now on this night you may go into the sky and you may make a picture with the stones you gathered, but you must return to earth before morning, for it is only on this night that the star picture can be made." And it was true, for with that, the animal people began to walk right up into the sky. Each animal went a different direction. Each animal selected a special place in the sky to make his or her picture. Now, as the animal people were going into the sky, Creator called to Coyote. "Coyote, some of the animals are too small to carry very many stones. They won't be able to make a good picture. You then take this sack filled with stones, and when the smaller animals need a few more stones to finish their pictures, they can come to you." Coyote took the sack. He began to drag it along. Soon he began to complain, "I don't know why I have to carry this sack. I'm going to be busy making my own picture." He dragged the sack of stones a little way, and then Coyote stopped. opened the bag, and when he saw how many stones were inside, he said, "We won't need all these stones, and besides, this sack is too heavy." And with that, Coyote reached into the sack, took some of the stones, and tossed them into the sky. They turned into stars. Coyote continued along. He complained again. "If some animals are too small to make a picture, that is their misfortune, and this sack is still too heavy." And again he took stones out of the sack and tossed them into the sky. And that is how Coyote spent the night, going along complaining that the sack was too heavy, and from time to time he tossed stones into the sky. In the meantime, the animal people were busy making their pictures. By and by, first the small animals, then the larger animals began to run out of stones, and they began to call for Coyote. "Coyote, Coyote, where are you?" But there was no answer. The animals called and called, "Coyote, Coyote, we need more stones." Still there was no answer. The animals looked and looked, and soon they saw that it was getting light, and they knew that the special night was soon to be over. Just then someone called out, "Here he is! I found him!" And there was Coyote, sound asleep, and beside him was an empty sack. He had thrown away every single stone. And that morning the animal people returned to Earth. Some of them never finished their pictures. But that is why even when the moon gives no light, we can see at night, for the many stars in the sky give us light. And that is why some of the stars seem to make pictures. Some of the star pictures are good, but other star pictures look like they're not quite finished. And that is why some stars don't make a picture at all. It looks like someone just tossed them into the sky without thinking. But that's not the end of the story. For that night, Coyote forgot to make his own picture before he threw away all the stones. And ever since that night, when the sky grows dark and the stars come into view, Coyote looks into the night sky and begins to moan. "Ooh, I did a foolish thing. Ow, I could have had the best picture of all. Oh, I wish I hadn't thrown away all the stones." Coyote remembers his foolishness, and he begins to howl.
Until there were people, there were no pictures in the sky, for it was people who placed them there. Unlike the animal people of the story we just heard, scientists tell us we didn't have to place the sparkling stars in the sky. They were already there when we looked up. But we saw the stars and made the pictures, and that is how the constellations came to be. Let us begin our science story by thinking not of the night, but of the day. Let's imagine that we are lying on a grassy hill on a sunny summer day, with puffy white clouds sailing across the blue sky. As we look up at the clouds passing by, what do we see? We see pictures. One cloud may look like a cat or a dog, and another may seem like a swan, and still another may look to us like the head of a person or a ship sailing across the sky. For when we look at the world around us, our imaginations create pictures. It helps to make the earth and the sky familiar places to us. Now, let's imagine that it's in the afternoon and then evening, and the sun is going down behind our grassy hill. The clouds clear away, and the first stars begin to twinkle in the darkening sky. Soon the whole sky is filled not with clouds, but with sparkling stars. And as we look up at the stars in the sky, what do we see? We see patterns. We see pictures. Long, long ago, people looked into the night sky and noticed that some patterns made by the stars looked to them like people, or animals, or objects familiar to them on the earth. In the picture we call Orion, they saw the outline of a man. In the pattern we call Scorpius, they saw the outline of a scorpion. And in the north, they found a group of stars that reminded them of a bear, although the brightest part of the bear looks to us like a dipper, a pan with a long, crooked handle. People found such patterns and shapes all over the sky. They made the sky pictures and told stories about them that we tell even today. But not all the stars make easy patterns for us to see. Many look indeed as though Coyote just scattered them in the sky. Some people still found pictures there, not so much because the star shapes looked like anything, but because the sky was an important place, and the people used their imaginations to put important things there, gods and heroes, special animals, and sacred objects. When they looked at the star pictures they imagined in the sky, they were reminded of the stories of these things and the lessons they taught for living on the earth. About 75 years ago, astronomers decided that every star in the sky should be part of some constellation, and so they drew imaginary boundary lines around each of the 88 star patterns. And so the sky was divided into 88 pieces, just like the continental United States is divided into 48 states. It made the sky a giant puzzle, with 88 pieces fitting together to make the whole, and inside each piece was a constellation. When scientists began to make maps of the sky, they found there were places in the sky between these ancient pictures where there were no constellations. And so some of these scientists began to fill up the blank spaces with small pictures made of dim stars. They made things like peacocks and telescopes and clocks and lizards and even a giraffe. The old pictures and the new pictures made a total of 88 constellations that people see in the sky. And so it is today that the constellations are different things to different people. When we look at the sky, we see a giant picture book, and the sparkling star pictures are characters and objects in the story, each telling its own part in the tale. When scientists look at the night sky, they see a giant puzzle. Each star pattern makes a piece of the puzzle. The scientists wonder what part of the puzzle their telescopes will reveal. Our first story told us that when Coyote looks at the sky, he sees that his own picture is not there, so he howls. When we look at the night sky, we can make our own pictures and tell our own stories. When you go out tonight to look at the sky, what pictures will you see? What stories will you hear whispering among the stars?